I don't think I'm particularly amusing or funny all the time. I'm quite serious, really. But I like to take the piss out of people. My sense of humour tends to be quite sarcastic. I'm probably funnier outside of the family home than I am inside it. I feel that although I came across it or upon it later in life, I was about 38, golf was the thing that kind of took over my leisure hours. You know, I was working 5 days a week, sometimes 5.5 days a week, and golf was a kind of saviour. No, I've never been any good at golf. My dad's mother, Esther, came here in 1905 with her mother from Kiev because of the pogroms going on there, with Cossacks riding through the streets and chopping the heads of Jews off. So she escaped. My maternal family have been here for quite a few hundred years. They came from Portugal, round about the time of Cromwell. My dad was born in 1923, went to an ordinary school in the East End of London, probably left at 15. When the Second World War broke out, he was called up, served as a private with the Hearts and Beds Regiment. He came home. He must have married my mother during one of his leaves from the army, because when I was conceived, he was allegedly in India. Anyway, he was back in England in 45. Well, I was born in Hackney Hospital at the end of the Second World War. And then I went to live with my parents and the rest of my close family in a big house, which was rented, close to Aldgate East tube station. Football was a big part of my life when I was younger. I first went to Tottenham with my dad, who was a fanatical supporter. Every week he had a season ticket, which at the time cost 8 guineas, which is 8 times 21 shillings, or £1.10 times 8. I remember one year he couldn't afford it. Every time I saw my grandfather, he would give me half a crown, which was 2 and 6, and I'd put it in a tin. And I looked in the tin one day, and it had disappeared. The money had gone. And I discovered that my dad took it to buy himself a new Spurs season ticket. I must have been about, I don't know, about 7-ish. They were affectionate towards me, but not towards each other. Well, they were two opposites, you know, they were totally different people. They weren't suited to each other. I don't think they would have stayed together today. And long after I left home, I was probably in my 30s and they were still fighting each other. I actually offered to pay the rent on a flat for my dad so he could move out, but he wouldn't do it. He said, "Who'd drive your mother to the supermarket?" You know, she was there strictly to provide him with food. Good cook, as she was. No, we never celebrated any Jewish holidays or ceremonies, although I was Bar Mitzvahed, which was the most frightening day of my life. I was just really terrified, nervous, stage fright, because you have to recite in Hebrew from the Talmud, quite a large, long section with maybe 150 people in the synagogue, and the rabbi standing next to you. It's really frightening for a boy of 13. Well, I guess I miss them. I had a longer relationship with my mother because she survived my dad by about 15 years. He died of lung cancer. And I suppose I was closer to her than to him because of that. Because in the last 10 years of her life, I had to do everything for her. Whereas my dad just shuffled along and got on with his own life. He was driving right up to the end, so he didn't need my help in much. I feel the 60s kind of passed me by. I wasn't really involved in that scene, promiscuity, etc. I did sleep with a couple of the girls from the youth club where I was maybe 16 and a half-ish. We used to look forward to getting empty houses at the weekend when parents would go away and everyone would pile into the empty house. And you'd sleep anywhere, you know, on the floor, on the settee, on 2 armchairs put together. Just a typical young man's thing that probably still goes on today. We weren't into alcohol at all, or drugs, except for, I remember one boy was, his name was Mickey. He could always get hold of speed, etc. But I never used it. No, I was just scared of it. I remember the first time I had a joint, I vomited. So I never wanted to smoke it again. And I obviously had alcohol, but I didn't enjoy it. I didn't like the taste of it. Whilst I was still at school, I met your mum, and the other boys were very jealous because she was a cracking looking French girl. We met on a blind date, and one of my friends phoned me before the blind date and said, "Have you just had a phone call to go on a blind date?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Don't go, because the 2 French girls are absolute dogs," which I discovered wasn't the truth when I turned up. And that was at the Wimpy Bar in Gants Hill in Essex. She was very attractive. She was taller than me then, because I was still growing. She could speak English, but not fantastically fluently. I had O-level French, but my conversation was useless. And I know that her and her girlfriend Andre used to talk about me in French. And then one day it kind of clicked, and I told them I could understand, and they stopped. When Francine moved back to France, I was devastated. And it took me a long while to get over it. We both thought that was the end, until quite a long while later, when I phoned her out of the blue and we started seeing each other again. We started, first of all, phoning each other, and then commuting on a monthly basis, me to Paris, her to London. And I used to fly British European Airways on their night flight cheap tariff, which was £14 return to Paris. So I had to sell all my possessions in order to pay for it. I sold typewriter, tape recorder, record players, whatever I could find that had any value, I would sell. Francine was a lovely, generous person who I wanted to be with forever. Natalie was planned. She was the first. And then 16 months later, along comes Philip, and he wasn't planned. We were hoping to have another one, but not as quickly. Well, Phil is my favourite because he gives me a few quid every month. But I miss Natalie, being so far away, and the grandchildren. I'm finding it more and more difficult to drive that sort of distance now. As far as Natalie or Philip following me into pharmacy, I knew it wasn't going to happen. I didn't particularly crave it, although it would have been easy just to hand over the business to them if they'd been of a scientific mind, but neither of them wanted to do science, so it wasn't going to happen. I was never pushy at all in trying to steer them in one way or the other. As far as Natalie becoming a model is concerned, I didn't mind. I suppose I was quite proud, especially when she was on the cover of, famous magazines and appeared in commercials on TV. Philip became passionate about photography and films and decided after A-levels to see if he could get a job with a TV company, which he tried to do for about a year, writing to everybody. And he's gone from strength to strength. The biggest panic he caused us when we were at Weymouth. We were on the beach, which was crowded. He was 3, and suddenly we couldn't find him. And about a dozen people heard what had happened, and they were walking up and down the beach with us searching for him. And after 3 hours, we'd given up hope. I thought he must have been washed out to sea. We went back to the hotel, which was half a mile away across the Promenade Road, and he was sitting in reception reading a comic, which was, at the age of 3, a pretty clever thing to do. I started on the downward spiral into alcoholism maybe, I don't know, three or 4 years ago. We've always drunk wine here. With a French wife, it was inevitable. But my daily dependence on booze, it was first of all brandy, mainly, and then any spirit. And I was drinking up to a bottle a day of port. It made me absolutely useless. All I could do was sleep in the afternoon on the settee. Only about 4 weeks ago that I actually decided to tip what I had left down the sink. And I haven't drunk since. I never really enjoyed drinking. It tasted okay. It just put me to sleep and stopped me doing anything. I wasn't eating when I was drinking, so I lost weight. I've lost muscle bulk. I've lost my strength. I'm eating well now, and the weight is coming back on, but it seems to be all going to my belly. Those closest to me hated the fact I was doing it. It must have been horrible to see me or catch me drinking secretly, as was often the case, or finding bottles here, there, and everywhere. It's one of the most horrible substances I think we have. And I would advise anyone going down that route not to go there, not to start drinking secretly. If you're going to drink, drink with your relatives, etc. Drink openly. And don't, like I did, start at 8:30 in the morning. There were no problems in my life that I thought alcohol could rectify. I really don't know why I did it. It was stupid. I had a down look on life. I was always pessimistic, never optimistic. The glass was always half empty. I don't know why, because things have always worked out for me. Even recently, you know, when I was diagnosed with leukemia, I thought the worst had come, and then I was told it was dormant in nature and it wasn't going to kill me. I was stunned when I was diagnosed with leukemia, absolutely stunned. But I tend to take things quite calmly, even when they're bad news. When I was told several months later that after loads of blood tests and scans and God knows what, that leukemia was dormant and was unlikely to become aggressive, I just sat there. I didn't jump up and down and kiss the consultant or anything. I just sat there. And the nurse said to me, "Aren't you glad?" And I said, "Of course I am, but I just didn't show it." I've considered the future if I peg it long before Francine, and there's, you know, sufficient to look after her for the rest of her life, so I don't worry about that. Yeah, I think I'd be missed. No, maybe not. Well, I think I've left a legacy in pharmacy because I have helped a lot of people over the years, and hopefully the family will think good of me. I don't know what I've done, especially for them, but most people I come across seem to like me. The relationship I have with Francine is, well, it must be good because we've just celebrated 50 years together. We went through a sticky patch about, I'm not sure exactly, about 10 years ago, but we got over that. I think we both still love each other. And we're the best of friends, really. At her age, 71 now, she's still incredibly attractive. She thinks she's fat, which is mad. And she's a good cook. I'm very proud to be with her. And men still look at her in the street, even young men. No, I don't punch them. I may have been pretty good looking once, but I look now at photographs of myself and I think, oh my God, who's that old geezer? Bald, eye bags. In a sentence, I would say I'm probably a grumpy old fart who looks like a young Paul Newman, and I can't help that.